So there was a viral law event this weekend when it was revealed that a Washington couple is being sued for $112,000 plus after leaving a 1-star review on Google. I was reading this with Kaylee last night, and I kind of wish I had the camera on me when I was reading it for the first time, because I kept having these kinds of reactions. I want to look at this first, and then let's look at the fundraiser they started on GoFundMe, and I think we can fill in the blanks. I think this is a great example of how you can't just go off what people say publicly. You have to look at the details. This is the story of a Washington couple who left bad reviews, or should I say reviews about a bad experience with a roofing company, and were later served with a lawsuit over those reviews. If you just read the headline and you stopped there, you would get the wrong impression of what's going on and why the roofing company might not be doing what you think they're doing, and the couple might not be as innocent as they originally sound. The situation might still play out in favor of one or the other, of course. So I'm using might a lot here because the truth seems to be somewhere in the middle of the way these things are being reported. So this is in Vancouver, Washington, not to be confused with Vancouver, Canada. And it says that Autumn Knepper and Adam Marsh's roof started to leak at their Vancouver home. And then you get a key detail: their landlord sent over executive roof services. So what does that mean? It means there is a landlord. It means these people, Autumn Knepper and Adam Marsh, don't own the property. They rent the property. And usually when something major on the property needs to be fixed, it is the responsibility of the landlord. Even if the tenant broke it themselves or something, it's usually up to the landlord how they want it fixed. So the landlord sent over executive roof services. They came, looked at the attic, and said there were a few spots to fix. Knepper says, I asked about a timeline about when this might get finished. He told me to call the office. Knepper said she called the office and talked with the receptionist, who she said was rude from the time she answered the phone. Quote, she refused to give me any information. She said I would have to get it from the landlord. I asked to speak with the manager, and she laughed at me. She told me I was verbally abusing her and that she was the office manager. She hung up on me. You could imagine different ways that this happens. You could imagine a very rude customer service person. I've had that experience with very rude customer service people. On the other hand, you could imagine a Karen type person calling and demanding to speak with the manager, and then the person says, I am the manager, and now you've upset me, and that exchange could be seen as rude, even though it might not have been as rude. We don't know. We don't have the contents of that. But Marsh said he called them and had a similar experience. She was super rude, told me that she was the office manager. There was no one else I could talk to, and then hung up. So the couple each wrote a 1-star Google review detailing their experience with the receptionist. They filed a complaint with the Better Business Bureau that stated the business came to do an inspection of our roof and refuses to give any detail about the findings of scheduling of repairs to us, the tenants. And there's a key fact. The business refuses to give any details. Now, here's the thing. There's no law against businesses like this giving details. As far as I know, maybe there's something in Washington or Oregon that says roofers can't give details to tenants. But the customer is the landlord, not the tenant. So it's muddy. The waters are muddy here. This is less clear. This is not a black and white issue. If I'm the tenant, you better be damn well sure. I want to know what the heck's going on with the roof that's covering all of me and my valuables and my family and my ability to comfortably habitate in the building. So I can see why they would think that they were entitled to a copy of or details about the roofing and the schedules and the repairs. Instead, they were met with a brick wall, it sounds like. And whether that's rude of the office manager, customer service person, that's a matter of opinion. So that's going to come into it later. Next, the Better Business Bureau is a private company, private entity. It's not a wing of the government where you get to complain. It's not the Bureau of Consumer Protection or something. It's a private company that keeps track of these things. However, it's kind of established that that's who you complain to when you want to complain about a business. Marsh said the BBB never formally posted their complaint because the couple weren't direct customers of ERS. The landlord had hired the company, not the tenants. That is a very important line. So they were contacted by the owner of the roofing service. He told me he knew where I lived. He said he had a forensics guy and he would gladly spend $100,000 suing me. Well, okay, that's not de-escalating the situation. Nepper said the owner texted her and said the review needed to be taken down before more damage is done. That's fair. If there was damage being done, yeah, you'd call and you'd ask them to take the review down. I don't know if you get aggressive. I'm not in favor of getting unnecessarily aggressive with someone. I'm going to sue you for $100,000. I'll spend $100,000 suing you. Sounds like a knee-jerk reaction. Nepper said she called the police, which led to an officer asking the owner not to contact the couple. Okay, there you go. You don't want to have a polite interaction, just don't talk to each other, exchange letters. That wasn't the end of it. They received letters from a law firm demanding that they take down the reviews. When the Google reviews stayed up, they were served with a lawsuit filed on behalf of the roofing service for defamation and intentional interference with business expectancy. And at first glance, that sounds wrong. A review on Google shouldn't get you a defamation lawsuit. But the devil's going to be in the details. What's in the review? We're going to get to that in a moment. Let's finish the article. The couple was being sued for $112,000 or $28,000 per week. Defamation is going to require proof of actual damages, so the roofing service is going to need to offer evidence of where the $112,000 number came from. Was it just a number they picked out of thin air, or was it based on actual provable losses that they'll be able to show to a court and say, we had this job scheduled for $28,000 and the customer called and said, we saw that you sued because of this Google review, or we saw, actually that's complicated. Let's not go to that one yet. The hypothetical I want to put in your mind is that that someone saw the Google review and then decided not to hire ERS. So the roofing service didn't get hired directly because of the review. Yeah, if they can prove that damage, they might be able to recover that if it's defamatory. The homeowner was emotional, she cried, terrified, can't afford a lawyer, can't afford to pay, don't want to file for bankruptcy. All very sympathetic. David Bowser, the attorney for the roofing service, said this lawsuit is not about the negative reviews. The first thing I think your viewers need to understand is that my client is not suing one of its customers for leaving a bad review. That's not what's going on here, said Bowser. They said the couple did not hire ERS. The landlord did. Well, you can still have a bad interaction with the company and leave a bad review. There's nothing that says you have to be a client in order to leave a bad review. Now, maybe in your review, you shouldn't say, I hired these people when you didn't hire them. Maybe you can't lie or stretch the truth in your review. We'll get to that in a second. Because of that, he said they weren't entitled to the information they requested, a project report and a timeline, because they were not customers or clients of ERS. So the interviewer asks whether they're paying customers or not, shouldn't they be entitled to write about their experience? They said the receptionist was rude. The attorney says it depends on why they did that. If they were doing it merely to express their opinion, that's what customers have done in the past. I don't have an issue with that. ERS doesn't have an issue with that. But when you cross the line and use this forum to cause intentional harm to a family-owned business and hurt them and their employees and their business, you've crossed the line. How did they intentionally harm ERS by writing about a rude receptionist? They intentionally harmed by posting one-star reviews for the purpose of getting a report they weren't entitled to. And that is a key fact. If they said, we'll take down our one-star review if you give us something we're not allowed to have, that's extortion. That's not allowed. They don't have a right to the report. They're using some other means to get something they're not entitled to. That's on the verge of extortion right there, if not crossing the line into extortion. It might not be actionable extortion in this kind of scenario, but pay me $50,000 or I'll release this information about you that I have every right to release anyway, is on the verge of illegal extortion. The couple said they filed the complaint because of their bad experience with the company's receptionist. Attorney Paul Eevi with Public Citizen Litigation Group in Washington, D.C. By the way, I've met Paul. He's an awesome guy and a really clear thinker. And so when I see his name here, that's worth noting. He said, when it comes to negative reviews, the review needs to be truthful, and if it is, the person who wrote it should be protected. I think the business has a lot to lose by litigating it by trying to frame it as a defamation case. The problem is that the business has the money and the couple doesn't, and that this might be an example of a strategic lawsuit against public participation, which is called a SLAP. SLAP lawsuits are designed to silence critics by forcing them to spend money to defend a lawsuit. Washington had one of the strongest anti-SLAP laws in the country, but it was deemed unconstitutional. A new anti-SLAP law is meant to go into effect today, July 25th. They were sued at the end of June, and the question is whether the anti-SLAP law will apply in this case if it's still pending on July 25th, even though it was filed previously. The attorney says that this is not a SLAP filing. That's not what a SLAP lawsuit is. A SLAP is a motion. This is a lawsuit. The lawsuit asserts claims for defamation and for intentional interference with business expectancies. Well, that's, in my opinion, not true. A SLAP lawsuit is the lawsuit, the strategic lawsuit against public participation. An anti-SLAP motion is a motion to dismiss under an anti-SLAP law. So this is not trying to silence someone because of something negative. The attorney says no, not something that they legitimately had a basis to give an opinion on. So they set up a GoFundMe. They say, I just don't want my future completely destroyed by something so small. This is obviously a man who is well off and can afford to do this, and I can't afford to fight. Well, thanks to GoFundMe, they've raised $32,000, and it looks like they're going to be able to fight. But there's some more details in here that I think we can use to help figure out what's actually going on. We are currently saving every penny we can that isn't spent on essential bills, making use of our local food bank to help cook so we don't. So this has severely affected their life. There's the article. And then there's some updates down here. See older updates. And then here's the reviews. These are the reviews we allegedly left on Google. They claim are us purely on when they are posted and what they say. 1, the receptionist is so incredibly sideways rude, it's disgusting. Statement of opinion so far. I asked her for information on a repair and she acted like I was inconveniencing her entire day. I asked her if I needed to contact my attorney to get the information from them and she claimed I was verbally abusing her and hung up. Those could be statements of fact, and they're just pretty vague statements of fact. So I asked her for information, sure. It doesn't say anything about I'm entitled to this information, I'm the owner, nothing like that. Needless to say, I am already in contact with my attorney. Poor business, I would never recommend them. I don't think this review is actionable, but that's just my opinion. Let's see what the second review has to say. So we tried to call to get information on an estimate we requested. Now we've crossed a line. Did they really request the estimate? Maybe they did request the estimate. They requested it from the landlord. Maybe they requested it from ERS and ERS said no. So it doesn't say we're entitled to this, we hired them. It just says we requested it. So yeah, I think that's maybe a non-actionable statement. And we're told we couldn't get that information. Sounds pretty accurate. We requested to speak with a manager, and the woman, whose name I think she said was Michelle the first time but refused to give her name again, literally laughed and said, I'm the office manager, so we said we need to handle this the right way or we would call Better Business to file a complaint. Well, she hung up and then called back, leaving a threatening voicemail. Are you kidding? So unprofessional. I called Advanced Roofing and he responded promptly in a timely manner, and we are using his services now. I do not recommend them at all, the earlier roofing service. And there's maybe the actionable statement is they said that they want to handle this the right way, or we would call and file a complaint. I'm not sure that, again, that's actionable, but that I think is as close to actionable as we get in this situation. They want the report that they might not be entitled to, and they're threatening to file a complaint. Complaining to Better Business is not the same thing as filing a lawsuit, is not the same thing as making a false police report. But yeah, it could be considered a statement made in public that is false. But it also didn't say what the complaint would contain, so the complaint could be accurate. I think the roofing company is going to need to prove that there was some kind of, well, it's a defamation case. They're going to need to prove that it was a false statement. Intentional interference with business expectancy means trying to interfere with a contract or a customer or something, and it hurts the business financially. So making false statements with the intention of hurting the business, that could be actionable. So I think this is really just the two different sides' interpretations, and the plaintiff decided that this was actionable enough to sue. What we don't have here is any information about the damages. Are they provable? Because you would need to prove damages. This is not a statutory damages case as far as I know. I don't know Washington law, and I can't give advice on Washington law, but generally speaking, defamation cases, they don't base the damages on some kind of amount set by law. The amount is set at whatever's provable in court. So the plaintiff is going to have to justify the $112,000 plus. This is a really bad case. I wouldn't bring a case this borderline. It wouldn't be something that I would recommend that a client bring to a lawsuit situation. Let's see what else is in here. Base details. Business came to our house. Inspector said we could get more information from the office. Called the office the next day. Asked for an estimated timeline so we could take off work to be home. Receptionist was rude. Details will be submitted to the actual case, but not included here for legal purposes. The owner later called threatening us, and then when he was asked to stop threatening and harassing us and he was hung up on, texted to harass us. The cops were called and they told him to leave us alone. Then he called the landlords, threatening them with legal action, which made them contact us. I'm not sure what claim the company would have against the landlord for the behavior of the tenant. That's a new one to me. Someone would have to tell me what kind of claim they'd have against the landlord. After that, they kept demanding the reviews be removed. Now we're being sued. The business owner hired one of the largest law firms in the area. His business still have almost 5 whole stars, and other bad reviews are from prior incidents with other people. At this point, we have been bullied, harassed, and now what feels like blackmail, but in the legal sense. Okay, so yeah, that's clarifying that they're not accusing them of blackmail. They're accusing them of whatever legal blackmail is, of pressuring them using a lawsuit, a strategic lawsuit against public participation. We live paycheck to paycheck, and the reviews he is attacking us over are only about the rude actions of his receptionist. It's sad when people with money can just spend their money bullying the general public into silence. Please help us get through this difficult time in this David and Goliath case. Every cent helps. And you can search for this GoFundMe. It's called Sued for a Bad Review for more than 100K. So yeah, now that you have some of the details, you can actually see what the dispute is about. The business thinks that the couple is using the threat of a bad review in order to get an estimate that they're not entitled to. It's different than a situation where someone is using the threat of releasing sensitive personal information to the public in order to get $100,000 they're not entitled to. They do think they're entitled to the estimate. The roofer who came out and met with them said, you can call the office tomorrow and get this. So they think they have a reasonable basis for requesting the estimate that they were told they could get. I think it would be enough that they were told one thing and then told another thing when they called. That would be enough for a bad review. But you don't really need to be justified for a bad review. You can leave a 1-star review for a business. It's the text that matters, whether you're honest or not. If you are dishonest there, that could be defamation. If you use the threat of filing a 1-star review, I'm going to give you a 1-star review if you don't give me something I'm not entitled to, that might be extortion. But when it's in the middle, when it's saying, I'm going to leave a bad review for your hotel because you screwed up my parking, which is something that happened to me, that's not illegal. You can argue all day whether it's appropriate, whether you're being a jerk or a Karen, but that's not illegal. So this is a very interesting case. I don't really know which way it's going to go. It's going to come down to what the different parties present in court. If the roofing service can present evidence and testimony that the couple threatened them, we'll leave a bad review unless you give us something we're not entitled to. You don't have to give us the report that you told us we could have, is not going to be a good enough reason for the plaintiff, I don't think. If the couple can show that their statements were matters of opinion and the facts that were in the statements were correct or truthful, then they win the case. And it will come down to whatever fee shifting rules are in Washington, whether the losing party has to pay the winning party's attorney's fees. Either way, what has happened is this went viral and it's been all over the internet. And my understanding is that the roofing company has now been inundated with a lot more attention than they were expecting from the bad reviews. So it truly is a Streisand effect. If you remember, the Barbara Streisand case was where a photographer was taking perfectly legal pictures of the California coastline, and then Barbara Streisand didn't like that her house was in those pictures. We're not talking about someone taking pictures into the house or into the backyard to see private things going on the property. Rather, these were wide pictures that were showing the coastline generally and happened to contain the houses. Well, you don't have a right to claim copyright or otherwise get pictures taken off the internet of your property from a public place. So a helicopter off the coast or a plane off the coast in the air would be perfectly legal. Maybe you could argue that a helicopter hovering directly above your house under a certain altitude, I don't know what that is, 500 feet or something, there is some kind of limit, that's considered your personal space, and now you can't do that. If the photographer is shooting into your house with a telephoto lens, some of them get pretty extreme, that's probably considered unauthorized or illegal or a privacy violation of some kind. But what happened was, instead of Barbara Streisand getting the picture removed from the internet, the picture itself went viral as kind of a retaliation for Ms. Streisand's inappropriate behavior. And I think that's what's happening here. The company, the roofing company, regardless of the merit of their lawsuit, the situation looks bad. And instead of just absorbing 2 1-star reviews and maybe replying on Google with the facts, because you can reply to these reviews, instead of replying appropriately, they instead went to a lawsuit and went to legal accusations. And this has the effect of bringing more attention to the situation, not less. It could bring good attention. It could bring attention from people who want to use the services of a company that sues its customers. As an attorney, I've often been told that attorneys should think twice or maybe even thrice about suing their clients, because usually the client sends more bad reviews and requests disciplinary action and disputes the fee and all that, and it can be way worse than just absorbing the cost of the bad review or the client who didn't pay or something like that. So I think this was a bad decision by the roofing company. But that's what's going on there. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And I want you to stay away from contacting the roofing company or the parties directly. If you want to support the party, use the GoFundMe. If you support the roofer, leave your comments, but I would say let's not harass either party here. I don't know that I have a duty to say that, but it sounds like a good thing to say on the internet, which is let's not be part of the problem. Let's just talk about the situation and not harass anyone ourselves. So keep it tame, and let me know what you think in the comments below. And that's today's video. Special thanks to our top supporters in July: John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Eevi, Spirit Bear, Benjamin Hitov, Ugly Grill, Rudolph Bescherer Jr., Torpedan, Brandyn, Abel, ShadowTycho, RDHDragon, Earthbound Star, and PureMagma. You can support Lawful Masses on patreon.com/ljfrench, sponsors.com/law, through YouTube memberships, and through Floatplane subscriptions. Join me for our weekly live production stream on twitch.tv/lawfulmasses on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern US time. I hope everyone has a great week. I love you all. Bye.